We're just 12 days away from knowing every card coming in Delta Rain, which is ironic and moronic considering that it doesn't release for another 112 days. Japan is getting Storm Emeralda on July 31st, which is what our Delta Rain set is based on, yet the full reveal of that will happen on July 24th. We have to wait until November 5th for all the cards, which is a result of 30th Celebration releasing on September 15th. Yes, it's dumb. You were probably waiting for a big juicy butt there, but you'll need to visit another site for that site. Regardless of how hard the Pokemon Company is edging us, even more Delta Rain cards were shown off this week, including our third Mega of the set, Golisopod, which, if you're like me, are just now learning has a Mega. Completely ditching multi-prize Golisopod's entire existence being based around swinging and skedaddling, the Mega requires your opponent's active to have at least one damage counter on it. If it does, Finishing Blow deals 220 damage for a single grass. If it doesn't, well, you won't be blowing too many people. Meanwhile, the new Wimpod reuses Pokemon Go Wimpod's ability of being able to freely retreat if they have a multi-prizer in play. Along with Finishing Blow for 3 colorless, which can be filled by an Ignition Energy, Quattro Hold does 160 damage and prevents retreating. So it's literally just Chestnut's Impound, which can be good since hitting with Quattro Hold sets up Finishing Blow. Except then you have to run Ignition and Grass Energy, which is a bit much. Before I get to why Mega Golisopod is probably going to disappoint, let's talk about its strengths. Finishing Blow only requires 1 energy, which can be a growing grass, meaning Wally's Compassion becomes a great option. We've seen this work wonders recently with Mega Starmie and Frostlass paired with Hero's Cape. Plus, Hilda can find both growing grass and Addition Energy as well as Golisopod, meaning you can utilize both attacks if you wanted to. Alternatively, and more likely, you'll run Crispin and Monkey Dory. Their active has to be damaged. Monkey Dory is the best way to accomplish this, provided they aren't playing Patrat. And even if they are, Baby Frostlass and Risky Ruins can get the job done as well. Additionally, if you don't want to mess around with Abilities and spanking your monkey, Dusclops and Dusknoir also activate Finishing Blow. Problem is, giving up a prize in a Mega deck is always risky, and a single Psyduck ruins that entire strategy. But it is an idea. Just like the pairing with Arboliva, though then you'd have to run Forest of Vitality, and I'm not sure this deck necessarily needs it. Another positive is the whole grassness of Golisopod means Zoroark EX is easily one-shot by both attacks. And 220 damage is dealing with pretty much every basic EX out there, provided they have a damage counter on them. Not only that, with access to Mew EX copying Finishing Blow, Dragapult and Mighty Lucario are done as well, all for a single grass. You just need Clefairy down and a damage counter on Dragapult and hope they can't knock out your super weak 2-prizers. Yeah, that's just a hint of the negatives to Golisopod. Even pure Clefairy decks with multiple Lily's Pearls still lose to Dragapult because Phantom Dive does 200 damage. In the case of Mega Golisopod, if it does end up being good, Dragapult players will simply lean more heavily into Blaziken EX for one-shots, taking 3 prizes. And even if you're running Wally's Compassion and Golisopod, it doesn't really matter. Their draw engine is better. And you're only dealing a maximum of 220 damage with the Goliath Isopod, meaning they're likely to outlast you. Probably the worst thing about Mega Golisopod is how it compares to other similar Megas. Lopunny follows a similar strategy, except it deals 10 more damage and has access to Enriching Energy. So every time you use Wally's to fully heal it, you get a draw of 4. Not to mention retreating with Air Balloon into the Dunsparce is a lot simpler than ensuring your opponent's active always has a damage counter on it. And if you really want a Stage 1 Mega who does things for 1 energy attachment then heals with Wally's, Starmie is much better. Getting a Jetting Blow is a lot more fun than a Finishing Blow since it spreads to the bench. And Ignition Energy on Starmie means it's dealing 210, going through all effects on their active. So in the realm of Megas who attack for a single energy, Golisopod's 6th or 7th best, lacking any sort of one-shot power against evolved EXs. Don't get me wrong, I see a world where Mega Golisopod can be useful, especially once all the H-block cards rotate in March. But if I had to choose which of the 3 Delta Rain Megas revealed so far I'm most excited for, it'd be old Chicken Mouth. And compared to other grass types like Hydrapple EX and Dipplin, well, I think this is more of a David than a Goliath. Except David won that fight, making my comparison completely invalid. Whatever. The theme for the rest of today's video is going to be healing. No, not the kind where For the Win whips out a new bottle of baby oil. I mean surviving a hit and removing all the damage they just did to you. Wishy-Washy EX isn't a great example of it though. For 4 energy, meaning Misty's Vitality is basically a requirement, Hydro Splash does 220 damage. That's one-shotting most meaningful basic EXs and nothing else. So clearly healing is going to be Paramount Plus, except its ability only heals 50 damage. And it has to be in the active. While Hero's Cape and Lively Stadium do boost Wishy-Washy's hit points, a single jamming tower ruins your life. And while Wishy-Washy can one-shot Teal Mask Ogerpon, it takes a lot of work, losing a turn to do so. Ogerpon, however, can take advantage of the fact that Wishy-Washy needs 4 energy and destroy it. What really sucks is Wishy-Washy only having a 3 retreat cost, meaning Heavy Baton is out. Overall, Wishy-Washy EX seems kinda terrible. And despite what I'm about to talk about, I doubt it'll ever see play. But like those things tourists don't know how to ride, it's the perfect segue into this next section. While Legendary Summit was underwhelming, really only helping during your opponent's turn, Legendary Trench opens up a much deeper strategy. When you put this double stadium into play, the amount of healing done to any Pokemon is doubled. The idea with Wishy-Washy is that paired with the stadium, its ability now heals 100. But at just 260 hit points, you're still in the danger zone against Dragapult. Luckily, there's multiple more uses for Legendary Trench. Starting with another beefy water type, we have Wailord EX. It's a stage 1 with 380 hit points, meaning it's likely surviving a hit unless they have Raging Bolt or Mega Rayquaza or a Lightning type. What you do here is run multiple copies of Jumbo Ice Cream. The whale already has at least 3 energy on it because you spent your entire first turn playing Misty's Vitality. It probably took a hit in the process, but now you're healing 160 damage with each Ice Cream instead of the typical 80. Since Wailord is coming up short of a KO on most things, the longer it survives, the better. Megas don't really have a use for Legendary Trench since they have access to Wally's Compassion, but someone like Jellicent EX who isn't a Mega and might only have 2 energy attached can now use the Trench with Jacynth to heal 300 freaking damage. Or what about Ethan's Ho-Oh? Shining Feathers suddenly heals 100 damage from all your Pokemon, not just 50. Heracross, meanwhile, is one of the few Megas who could really benefit from a Jumbo Ice Cream healing 160 damage. But that brings me to the problems with Legendary Trench. In a grass deck, you won't have room for Force of Vitality, which is horrible. So that pairing is more of a non-starter than Brout. Worst of all, both sides of these double stadiums have the same name. So like I pointed out with Legendary Summit, you can only have 2 of the left and 2 of the right in your deck. Or I guess 3 and 1 if you're crazy. But that's 4 slots in your list taken up by something that can only be played when both halves are in your hand at the same time. Thankfully, unlike Legendary Summit, Legendary Trench gets value on your turn. But if Angie Floette was supposed to be a preview for how useful these cards will be, well, they won't be. Because we learned that it's a lot of work to get the combo, and if your opponent has a single stadium in their hand, everything's ruined. All of this is to say, Crustle is probably going to get the best use out of it. Jumbo Ice Cream healing 160 damage on a Crustle is horrible for everybody else, especially if they have a Hero's Cape attached. While 69% of decks will hate this combo, Dragapult doesn't really care. They'll just run a single copy of this Chi-Yu, which not only one-shots Crustle, but gets rid of their Trench. For everyone else, well, don't be surprised if Crustle makes another resurgence this November. And when Chi-Yu rotates in March, well, let's not think that far ahead. To the Pokemon Company's credit, they are at least trying to make these double stadiums playable. Instead of relying on Colress or Petrol or Luck, Aarune gets 3 in combination of supporters and stadiums from deck. Use Meowth or Pokegear and you can grab both sides while also prepping a supporter for next turn. We saw something similar a few years ago with Professor Burnett, who was designed to find V-Union pieces. Aarune is much stronger though, able to get the job done by himself. And for those of you as confused as I am, Aarune is the guy from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire who teaches you about secret bases. So naturally, he's a direct reprint of Scott, the guy from the anime season where Ash's Charizard loses to a freaking Dusclops after like 2 moves. Anyway, I've seen people mention that Aarune can help Honchkrow. Personally, I don't see it. That deck runs Transceiver, which can't find Aarune. Plus, the biggest issue with that deck is finding energy. Cutting cards to make room for a supporter that doesn't draw cards or activate Team Rocket's factory is going in the wrong direction. As for Typhlosion, you already have Quilava to find Ethan's adventure. Sure, Aarune can grab 2 Ethans plus a Prism Tower, but like Honchkrow, you're not really helping your setup. Maybe if we get to a world where Typhlosion is paired with the Dunsparce, it could be a thing. For now, I'm envisioning Aarune as a one-of in double stadium decks, which sadly might not exist unless we get something truly cracked. If you enjoy putting balls in your mouth, I've got some great news. Delicious rice balls or delicious jelly donuts or yummy onigiri or whatever it ends up being called is an item coming in Delta Rain that requires a lot of math. At first, it's basically just a potion healing 30 from your active. But for each other yummy ball in your discard pile, it heals 30 more. Paired with Legendary Trench, that means it starts at a heal of 60, going up by 60 each time. The main question is it better than Jumbo Ice Cream? First off, the balls don't require your active to have any energy attached, so that gives it a lot more flexibility. From a numbers perspective, with Legendary Trench in play, the first 2 balls are worse, the third is slightly better, and the fourth is much better. If I did the math correctly, which is a big if, gobbling down all the balls is a total of 600 damage healed. Compare that to Jumbo Ice Cream, which is a total of 640 damage healed. While Jumbo Ice Cream does require your active to have 3 energy attached to work, I still think it's better. A lot of the targets you would want to heal should have lots of energy on them, and those that don't can use Wally's Compassion. Not to mention you have to run 4 balls in your list. Jumbo Ice Cream can be limited to 2 or 3 and still give you great value. So unless we get a deck that wants a ton of healing with both the Ice Cream and Rice Balls like stupid Crustle, I don't think it'll usurp the cream. The thing that all Vests and Butt Plug cards have in common is that no one ever really uses them. Not only does Jamming Tower shut off all tools, but Tool Scrapper can simply discard them. Plus, if damage reduction was so good, these berries would probably see more play as they reduce incoming damage by 60 if they're hit by a specific type. All of this is to say, if any deck's going to find a use for Custom Vest, it's probably Dragapult EX. Better than Tremendous Bomb coming in Pitch Black on Thursday, Custom Vest offers a 60 damage reduction against Mega Pokemon attacks provided they themselves aren't a Mega. While Excadrill still runs Metagross and Gravity Mountain and Brave Bangle and Kieran to deal with Dragapult, Custom Vest means the odds of your 320 hit point dragon surviving a maximum drilling are much higher. Obviously, Custom Vest will probably get stronger next year when we're likely to enter a more Mega-focused format. But for now, this will be yet another tool in Dragapult's box they can use to combat any strategy you might come up with to beat them off. If I was to guess what the best Stage 1 Grass type who attacks for a single energy coming in Delta Rain is going to be, it'd be Cacturne. Basically just a reprint of the Sizzler that rotated earlier this year, Cacturne punishes ability heavy decks. For a single Grass, Punishing Needle does 10 base damage plus 50 more for each ability Pokemon in your opponent's side of the field. In 2026, 4 is the magic number. If they have 4 ability Pokemon down, that's 210 damage, one-shotting Ogerpon, Fezandipity, Latias, Meowth, Clefairy, and so much more. Best of all, every heavily played basic I just mentioned has an ability. So against Raging Bolt or Ogerpon Clefairy, you win. And everything I said about Mega Golisopod applies here with Cacturne obliterating Zoroark in every other Grass Weak deck. Well, Dark Jump could be a problem if they know how to read, but if they go autopilot and put too many Roserade down, you should be fine. One of the coolest things about the Nocturnal Cactus is how versatile it is. You can easily fit 11 toes in your mouth if you stretch beforehand. Also, a 1/1 line in any grass deck with Force of Vitality gives you an amazing single prize backup attacker they won't know about until it's too late. And let's not forget that Ogerpon Clefairy has done things because it hits hard and has a way to deal with Dragapult. Swap Ogerpon with Cacturne, you have a chance to win most matchups. Except maybe Delmise. And Festival Lead will be tough if they play multiple Gladion. Of course, Cacturne isn't necessarily amazing against Dragapult, who doesn't have an ability, but if they leave too many Dracloak on the field alongside a Meowth or Fez or Blaziken, those all help boost its damage. Though, even in that scenario, you'll still need a Clefairy to win. If you couldn't tell, I'm really excited for this card. Between Accompanying Fluid and Lickitung, you have a way of forcing ability Pokemon into play, further boosting Cacturne's damage. Along with a Lily's Clefairy or Baby Frostlass pairing, but probably not because you want Shaman and Psyduck and Betrayed and maybe even Battle Cage, it has a real chance to do some big damage. Shifting gears like a Kling, we were officially shown one new 30th Celebration card this week. Like many of the other recent ones though, Jirachi EX kinda sucks. For any energy, Wish Granter draws you up to 7 cards in hand. Maybe if Jirachi didn't have a measly 160 hit points, which is a trend I'm not liking, it might have done something. Better yet, why not make this an ability? They could have done something like Squawkabilly where it's only usable turn 1, or Rotom V where using the ability ends your turn. Instead, it's an attack from someone who gives up 2 free prizes to anyone running Moltres. About the only application for Jirachi EX will be its second attack. For 3 colorless, which doesn't work with Addition Energy since it's a basic, it shreds for 150 damage. That just so happens to be how many hit points Crustle has. So maybe some decks like Steven's Metagross will end up running Jirachi if Crustle ends up being super strong with all that healing. Though Dipplin, Delmise, and maybe even Cacturne will have something to say about Crustle's potential dominance. Plus, if you want a good shredder, watch the original live-action TMNT movie. Also, Mega Lopunny only requires 2 colorless for Spiky Hopper, with its first attack being super strong as well. So I'm not really sure where Jirachi fits in the meta. I used the word officially when discussing Jirachi EX because someone leaked all over the internet revealing several new 30th Celebration cards in ultra low resolution. While scalpers are salivating at the thought of beating people off in a Walmart parking lot to get their fingers inside this hyper rare Mew EX, cool people like you and me only care about the Salamence EX. Assuming the leak is correct, then Salamence is going to be Kingdra EX but for dragons. The good news is that Kingdra EX kinda sucks. The bad news is that 3 Dragapult EX on the board at the end of turn 2 will be possible. Thankfully, that's not actually strong, since Dracloak is the main reason why Dragapult is so insane. And if you're planning to use Salamence to have 3 Dracloak down turn 2, that's really a bad idea. First off, they have to be in the discard pile, meaning Brilliant Blender basically has to be your ace spec. And a single Badoo item lock from your opponent prevents a turn 2 Rare Candy Salamence ruining everything. Looking at other options, I guess you could put one or both of the Haxorus into play for one-hit KO possibilities, but it's super awkward and you're better off playing Slowking. Mega Dragonite's a thing for its switch ability, but Salamence's attack sucks, only dealing 240 damage and discarding the top card of your deck. Plus, I don't know if you know this, but there's currently only 19 evolved dragon types in Standard, and Pitch Black introduces 0 dragon type cards. Maybe if the Pokemon Company remembers that this type exists, then Salamence could be a thing. Until then, it seems about as useful as Gengar EX. One other elite card we can kind of make out with like it's a life-size God of our love doll is Gengar EX, because we obviously needed another one of those. Featuring the lowest hit points of any Stage 2 EX, it appears 30th Celebration Gengar EX will reuse the ability of Gengar from Stormfront, released almost 20 years ago. Assuming the text has been deciphered correctly, if Gengar is knocked out by damage from an attack, you flip a coin. If heads, their active is also knocked out. Wheezing from 151 had this exact same video, and I was going to make a video about it with Mega Gengar. Well, I flipped 80% tails, and obviously that didn't happen. Gengar EX also has the Chaotic Pain attack, placing what looks like 13 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. I'll wait until we get the official Gengar EX reveal to really hate on it, but yeah, coin flip cards are only fun when you flip heads. And if your luck is anything close to mine, you'll never be happy. The 30th Celebration ETB setlist guide leak also provided us a look at all 30 Pikachu. I'll talk a bit more about all of them next week alongside our penultimate Delta Rain preview. Until then, let me know if you think I'm crazy for undervaluing Mega Golisopod by DMing me feet pics on Discord.